The LA Kings didn't suddenly expire. They did get hit by a bad bounce, a hot goalie, or an awful penalty, or one weird playoff thunderbolt from the hockey gods. They faded. That's worse. Because when a team gets swept, sometimes you can tell yourself the matchup was cruel. The puck luck was cruel. The bracket was cruel. But when you're down 3-0 in the series, down in game 4, and the building doesn't feel like it's trying to drag you back into the season by your throat, it's not cruelty, it's absence. This is the post-mortem for the Los Angeles Kings, and the official cause of death, simple, no pulse. The Kings come into game 4 already down 3-0 to Colorado. They hadn't solved the Avalanche enough offensively. Game 3 ended 4-2 Colorado, which pushed LA to the edge. Through 3 games, LA had scored only 4 total goals. So by game 4, this wasn't just a must-win. This was prove you're still in there somewhere. There's elimination games where a team loses, but they leave fingerprints all over the glass. They empty the tank. They turn every shift into an argument. This didn't look like that. This looked like a team trying to find a match in a wet drawer. Cause of death, offensive asphyxiation. Not just they didn't score enough, more specific, they didn't create enough pressure to make Colorado uncomfortable for long stretches. Colorado didn't need to be perfect. They needed to be composed. That's a dangerous difference. The Avalanche didn't have to survive a siege. They had to manage a patient. And when you're the team facing elimination, that's fatal. Time of death wasn't one goal. It was the moment that Game 4 started to feel like a continuation of the series instead of a rebellion against it. The time of death was midway through the third period, when the Kings needed desperation and mostly produced hockey-shaped compliance. The third period of an elimination game is supposed to be the part where structure gives way to survival instinct. You pinch, you crash, you throw bodies and pucks at the same square of ice until something cracks. The Kings needed chaos, and they brought paperwork. That's when the monitor went flat. Symptom 1. The Kings weren't completely without chances in the series. But chances only matter if they create fear. Colorado could live with a lot of what LA generated because it rarely became a sustained emergency. There's a difference between getting looks and making the other team feel hunted. The Kings got their looks, but Colorado didn't feel hunted. Symptom 2. I'm not going to do the lazy fan thing and say professional athletes don't care, because that's never fair. But caring and transmitting urgency are not the same thing. The Kings may have cared plenty, but they didn't transmit it. Symptom 3. Colorado came in with the lead, the better series, and the calmer posture. LA needed to make them uncomfortable. Instead, Colorado got to stay Colorado. That's how you know a series is gone. The favorite isn't scrambling, they're organizing. There's some false hope that LA's defensive structure could have kept the series close enough for 1 or 2 moments to flip everything. To be fair, there's some logic there. Colorado didn't bury them by cartoon scores. Game 3 was 4-2. LA wasn't losing 8-1 every night. They're close enough to make the box score look respectable. Respectable is not the same thing as alive. And the cruel thing is that the Kings were close enough to convince themselves they were in it. That's playoff poison, because we're right there only matters if the next sentence is, and now we're taking it. For LA, the next sentence never came. So Colorado didn't need to play reckless hockey. They had the series lead, they trusted their structure, they got enough scoring, and they let LA's offensive limitations do part of the work. The Avalanche played like a team that understood the scoreboard had real gravity. They never needed to chase the series. The series was just rolling downhill towards them. That's a miserable opponent to face when your own offense is stuck in a hallway. The Avs didn't rely on a miracle formula. What they have is a functional playoff formula. Get enough saves and enough finish. Don't donate oxygen to the other bench. So what survives? For the Kings, defensive competence. They keep some veteran structure and enough talent to be credible. They're also going to carry the organizational memory of what high-end Kings hockey is supposed to look like, but not enough playoff danger. What survives is the idea of the Kings as a serious adult hockey team. What doesn't survive is the idea that serious adult hockey is enough. At some point, you have to scare somebody. This version of the Kings did not scare this version of the King. This version of the Kings didn't scare Colorado, and that's the real indictment. LA's been chasing the shadow of its championship era for a long time. They haven't won a playoff series since the 2014 Stanley Cup run, and they still carry the scent of those cup teams in the franchise walls, but banners don't forecheck, and history doesn't score Game 4. At some point, the current team has to stop being adjacent to old glory and start producing new evidence. This series didn't produce that evidence. The LA Kings died of offensive asphyxiation, complicated by low emotional temperature and a failure to turn elimination pressure into visible force. This wasn't a collapse from a great height. This was a slow loss of oxygen. The Kings didn't get embarrassed because they were unserious. They got eliminated because they weren't dangerous enough. And in playoff hockey, that's its own kind of embarrassment. So the LA Kings are not a joke, but this ending was quiet. Quiet is not how a season is supposed to die. And the Kings didn't go out swinging. They went out looking for the light switch. Thanks for watching.